everyone. Give everybody a few minutes to get to the room. Special edition, Saturday edition. Let's go.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Yep. All right, folks, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I've got a lot to talk about. Let's start with all the protests that are happening. People ask me if I could do a podcast today to discuss what's happening across the country. Atlanta last night got rowdy, got turned into a riot. California, you had protests in Washington, D.C., and Chicago today, in Miami, all over the country. Portland, there are protests everywhere, and many of them have turned violent, turned into riots. I want to say first and foremost that I have no problem with it turning into riots. Number one, because I can't stop them. I think that's the first and foremost. I want you to be sure that this is an organic thing that grew out of social media, and it's not going to be possible to take out one or two figureheads and stop this because it grew organically. The people are enraged, and they have every reason to be. Have you seen what's going on in this country? 40 million people are unemployed. 100,000 people are dead from the coronavirus being bungled by the people in Washington, D.C. And now you have one of the cruelest display of police brutality, murder, take place and displayed all across social media for us to see just how barbaric the police have been in the black community all along. If you don't think that is enough for people to be angry and be out in the streets, something is wrong with you. If you think that this has to be something that was done by quote unquote outside agitators, something that was done by Russia, then I have to question your morality, because why are you not enraged? Why are you not out in the streets? Now, if you say it's because of coronavirus, then I get it. Hey, shit, I'm not going out because of coronavirus. I got 3 little kids. Okay. And I couldn't go out if I wanted to. My wife would snatch me. That's why I'm doing a podcast. But for some people, they have absolutely nothing to lose because they've lost everything. These people are putting their lives on the line. They are looking at the pandemic and saying, you know what? I don't care. I still have to go. And so the question is, if you don't believe their anger, what is wrong with you? A lot of people are invested in trying to make this seem like it's nothing but outside agitators. New data has just come out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The majority of the people who were arrested over this week were from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So tell me, who lied to you today? I want you to pause and ask yourself the question, who told you that goddamn lie? That it was outside agitators? Because the driver's licenses of the people who were arrested said they were local. Now, once you have identified who lied to you, ask yourself why they lied to you. And you're going to have to face a really grim reality. You know who has lied to you? Your favorite liberal, somebody that you follow on social media, somebody who pretends like they don't like Donald Trump. And I say pretend like they don't like Donald Trump because ask yourself the question, why are these well-meaning liberals repeating the same exact talking points as Donald Trump? Donald Trump is the one who started this idea that it was outside agitators. And now it has been regurgitated by a person that you trust who has been telling you all this time that they don't like Donald Trump and we need to do everything we possibly can to get rid of Donald Trump. But they're saying the same effing lie as the president. Why? Because our protests are a threat to the entire power structure in this country, from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. And don't you think for one second that before this is over, that the Democratic Party, the liberals, the people that you love so much will not stand lockstep with Donald Trump to crush it. They will absolutely stand and make a deal with the person who they call the devil every single day in order to crush what is happening in the streets. Because what's happening in the streets shows that the consent of the governed has been revoked. The people have every reason to look at this government as a failed state. And the question is if you don't believe they have a reason to be upset, maybe you are too much of a beneficiary of this government as compared to your brothers and sisters who are out in the streets, who are literally putting their lives on the line, completely throwing caution to the wind, looking at COVID-19 and saying, you know what? That is a threat, But this police state is even bigger of a threat. It is the threat that we live under every single day. We should have been out in the streets as soon as they told us to go out here and go back to work for Wall Street, to die for Wall Street. We should have been out in the streets once we saw 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 100,000 people dead. But sometimes it's not the magnitude, sometimes it's not the quantity, but it's the magnitude of the event. And for us to look at George Floyd as he was crushed under the boot of fascist police, sometimes it just takes one life. We didn't flinch when 100,000 people died, but it crushed our souls to see George Floyd die. And now you want to tell us that our rage is not authentic, that we are being run amok by outside agitators? This thing is organic. This is organic. I couldn't stop this if I wanted to. They would no more listen to me than they would listen to Barack Obama. They would no more listen to me than they would listen to Al Sharpton. There is not a black leader that you could put up to tell these people to go home because they are mad. And if you are not mad, then they are looking at you, questioning your morality. The mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, been a fan of hers. My daughter wanted to be like Keisha Lance Bottoms when she grew up. So you know what kind of household we got here. But she got on television and started crying last night, telling everybody to take their asses home. Well, Keisha, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you got on television and cried about the police brutality in your city? When is the last time you got on television and cried about the number of homeless people who froze to death in Atlanta? When's the last time you got on television and cried about buildings burning? I have to question the morality of anyone who puts more stock into buildings than they do human lives. Killer Mike, love you. Killer Mike got some pictures with you from the recent thing you did with Bernie Sanders. But I got a question for you, brother. All that you talk in your rap about by any means necessary, now you crying on television telling people to go home. Giving people mixed signals. You can decide whether or not you want to be a radical or you want to be a neoliberal. What is it, bruh? T.I., the same neighborhood that you went back to last night. I'm taking from somebody's tweet. I know somebody tweeted this, but they said it the best way, so I'm going to paraphrase it. You talking about how good Atlanta has been to you, but you going back to a neighborhood that called the police on you because they didn't believe you lived there. All of a sudden, because buildings are burning, now we have to have a press conference? Where was the press conference for all the niggas that have been brutalized by the police? The problem is they know once that seal has been broken, once that Rubicon has been crossed, then we reveal exactly how invalid this entire system is, how much it has failed us at every turn. The consent of the government. These are the people who, you wanted to know why all those other people weren't voting, why you could barely get 50% of the American population to go out and vote. You wanted to know where they were? They're out in the streets. Not a single politician can say a word to affect them. But what the politicians know they can do is try to invalidate them, to try to alienate them, to try to separate them from the will of the people. When the people like you and me, those of us who either cannot go out there or those of us who don't want to go out there for whatever reason, what the politicians in power, both Democrat and Republican, have to do is invalidate their protest in your eyes. I see Antifa terrorists trending. Let me tell you about Antifa. I'm one of the people. Let me start here. I went to the inauguration, 2017, Donald Trump's inauguration. I was there for the protest. The DNC, the Democratic National Convention, June of 2016. I was there for the protest. And at both of them in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., at both Antifa was there. And I was enraged. I was furious. I was so upset with Antifa because they kept trying to make our protest turn violent, right? Don't get too comfortable because this is what I'm going to tell you. I was also at the protest in Noonan, Georgia, when actual Nazis, self-proclaimed followers of Hitler, who want to exterminate Jews, actual Nazis, were marching in the streets of Noonan, Georgia. Now, let me ask you a question. Who do you think was there to fight them? Well, first of all, there was a lot of black people, a lot of poor black people, a lot of brothers and sisters from the block. But there were also white people, and they were primarily organized around Antifa. And I bring that up because I want you to ask yourself a question. When the rubber meets the road and you are confronted with actual, factual Nazis, who do you think is going to come to your defense? Some Democrat in Washington, D.C., who's tweeting out platitudes about how we should all get together and come together and blah, blah, blah. Do you think it's going to be some of these white Karen liberals who were at that wore the pink pussy hats and, at the Women's March? You think they're going to get out there and fight some Nazis on your behalf? Do you think it's going to be any of these podcasters who are going to fight? Shit, I'm too fat to fight them. It was Antifa, the black bloc. They were the ones fighting the actual Nazis, getting hogtied by the police because they just got through splitting the head of a Nazi. Now, you tell me who you want on your side. Choose your fighter. Say what you want about them. But when the shit hits the fan, you're going to need some people who actually will come to blows. Because power concedes nothing without a struggle. Nothing. And you worried about the damages? You're worried about the damages. I tell you what, add up every single thing that was lost last night. Add up every single car that was burned. Add up every building, every window that was broken. Add up every piece of material that was burned. And I guarantee you it does not match the value of a single human life. It does not add up to the value of George Floyd's life, yet you did not cry out for him as hard as you cried out for buildings being burned. Nothing that was lost last night compares to what the police department has done to the black community throughout the history of this country. Nothing that was burned last night can add up to what Wall Street has done, plundering and looting the wealth of the American people and enriching themselves while 40 million people lose their jobs, lose their health insurance. 100,000 people are dead, but billionaires have gotten richer. Nothing that was lost last night adds up to what they have done to us. Nothing that was lost last night adds up to what this country has done across the globe. But you've got the nerve to get on television and cry about some buildings? What morale? What is wrong with you? You know what's wrong with you? You are either being told to be afraid of change and of this revolution, or you are a beneficiary of this power structure and you're doing everything that you possibly can to protect your power. The people see you. The people see you. Video after video came out last night showing us exactly who the real aggressors were, who the outside agitators were. It was the policing forces across this country. It didn't matter what city you were in. The police forces were ready to crack some skulls. You saw a video in New York of the young lady who was thrown so hard by a police officer. She posed absolutely no threat to him whatsoever, but he threw her so hard that she ended up in the hospital. You saw a video came out. I don't know exactly which city, but you saw this guy who looked like the fake ass Dean Cain Superman. You saw that video? The guy, that officer, he was sitting there with his big, looked like a grenade launcher weapon. And he was just itching, ready to go. As a matter of fact, he instigated the incident and told this woman, he said, "Shut the fuck up, bitch." That was another city in Atlanta. Brittany Miller at BritMTV on Instagram found the video she captured the video rather, of the police officer who started the entire riot in Atlanta. The entire riot in Atlanta started at a flashpoint of a police officer pushing off a black protester with his bike. And some young, I don't know if she's white or a woman of color in a red dress, came and snatched the bike from the police officer and threw it into the crowd, and everything went to hell after that. The policing forces across this country are the outside agitators. Proof evident by the fact that on average, 70% of police officers that serve in a community are not from that community. So by definition, they are literally the outsiders. And we see their behaviors. They act like wild boars, like pigs, like animals. They are the outside agitators. We spend entirely too much money on police. We should not. We need to defund the policing agencies, and they all need to go to mental health counseling. They all need anger management because they are brutish beasts who have been given badges and guns and unleashed, particularly on the black community. There is a police state in every single city. If you get a mayor and you get a mayor in a moment of honesty, I don't care what city they are from. If you get a mayor in a moment of honesty, they would tell you that who they fear the most in their city, it's not the gangsters, it's not the drug dealers, it's not the pimps, or any of the old ways of referring to people. I'm telling my age at this point. It's none of them. The people that the mayors genuinely fear are the police chiefs, the police forces, and the police unions. They are gangs that siphon off billions of dollars from every single major city, millions of dollars from every city across this country, and every city is held hostage by these paramilitary gangster organizations who exercise and unleash all of their pent-up rage about their insecurities, the fact that they are actually insignificant little peons who have no meaning in their life. Where do you think all that rage has gone all these years? The black community. We see video after video showing proof evidence that the police officers are the outside agitators. Police officers create the conditions that they get a chance to knock some heads, kick ass, and take names. They get a chance to use all of their toys that they got from the federal government. Meanwhile, we don't have money for schools. We're shutting down schools and pouring money into the police force. We're closing hospitals and pouring money into the police force. Over 800,000 police officers across this country, with a whole bunch of guns and a whole bunch of rage about how insignificant their lives really are. They are gangs. They are thugs. They are mercenaries. They just so happen to call themselves officers of the law, when in reality, they are not even answerable to the people who make the law. They put pressure on our lawmakers. They put pressure on our leaders, on our politicians. They have politicians living in fear. Why else do you think Mayor Bill de Blasio is out here saying good things, flattering things about the New York City police, when the police are out there literally cracking heads of peaceful protesters, creating the literal conditions for a riot? But yet the mayor of the city is out here singing their praises. That's because he is terrified. When he goes to bed at night, Mayor Bill de Blasio, he has nightmares about the police force, not the drug dealers. Probably because the police force in New York would be the biggest group of drug dealers in the state, in the country. Defund the police. They are wild animals. They are pigs who have been unleashed on our communities. And ask yourself, how many people would still be alive? How many incidents do we not even know about because we didn't have cameras? And how they behave in front of the cameras? How the hell do you think they behave when the cameras are not rolling?
We'll make it up. You put us together. We'll make it up. You put us together. We'll make it up. You put us together.
I don't know how this ends. I'm not a leader in this movement. Even if it is a movement, it's decentralized. You're not going to be able to stop it by taking out a few figureheads like other movements. No, this is it's an organic beast that was started on social media and spread to the streets. Or maybe it started on the streets and spread to social media. I don't know. So I can't tell you how this ends. But if I was to make a suggestion on a good way to have this end, it would be to tell every single protester, no, don't tell them to just simply do it. Cut the budget of every police force across this country by a minimum of 50%. Make these police officers unemployed. Let them go find other work. Let them go dig ditches. Let them do anything else but take the guns and the batons and the badges out of the hands of sociopaths who are looking for a place to release their pent-up aggression. If you really want to know what's going to strike at the core of this, get rid of the police. You got to get rid of all of them. Figure it out. But cut their budgets and put that money to something of good use. The second thing that you could do is that, do you think all these people, 40 million people are unemployed? You don't think some of those unemployed people are out here? You don't think some of these people who are hurting because of the pandemic are out here? You need to start writing these stimulus checks like you write the stimulus checks to the people the way you wrote stimulus checks to the corporations. See, people see the inequality. What you were counting on, America, was that people were so numb to the inequality that they won't say anything or actually do anything about it. But like I said, we saw 100,000 people die and we didn't budge. But what it took was the brutality of the murder of one man to set off all of the pent-up rage that has been festering in the people as they have observed this country give trillions to corporations, to Wall Streets, to the markets, to millionaires, to billionaires, but only give us a pittance to give us the crumbs off the master's table. You want to know how to get these people off the streets? Open up the coffers for the people the way you opened up the coffers for Wall Street. And even then, I don't know if that's going to be enough because I can't speak on their behalf because I'm not out there. I'm at home. So you might want to go talk to the people on the ground and ask them. But if I were to make a suggestion, which I've already done, but I'm going to say it again, cut the policing agencies by 50%, open up the coffers for the people the way you opened them up for Wall Street and for billionaires and for corporations. And then we can have a conversation. All right, folks, that's it. That's all I got. I mean, I've got a whole lot more to say, but check me out on Twitter and I'll say it there.